Sounds
Hello,
good.
this is Gary Auden, and I'm bringing you an EDUcast, Collaboration, Digital Transformation, Monitoring Multi-Vendor Voice, Video, and Real-Time Collaboration, sponsored by Nectar and Telecom Reseller. I'm Gary Auden, and the other person on this EDUcast is Tim Armstrong, Vice President, Product Marketing for Nectar. And as we always do, we talk about our agenda. And obviously the word collaboration is going to pop up a lot in this discussion. The technology, user experiences, but where we're focusing more on collaboration management and network transformations that are important to us, health domains within the network, and advantages of managing a network from a cloud platform rather than just simply doing it on premises. So we'll start off, Tim, with the first question. What's this about technology transformation? What's so important in collaboration here?
Yeah, great to be with you today, Gary. Thank you. From my perspective, this is really the core of what we're talking about here. We are in, I like to say, the golden era of collaboration. If you look at it from an end user's perspective, never before have we had so many different tools available to us to ease our ability to collaborate with each other. And that is largely powered by a couple of really major shifts that we see happening right now in the industry. First and foremost, no doubt, is cloud services. So this is, something that cloud has obviously been changing the entire IT industry for quite some time. The UC voice and video industry has lagged a little bit. It started with meetings and conferences, but now we're really seeing full-fledged, complete collaboration, voice and video solutions from major vendors, existing vendors, new vendors, all really offering very mature cloud services, and we're seeing the enterprise adopt it. So that is absolutely crossing the chasm. The second really major shift that we're seeing is this idea of multi-vendor collaboration environments. People are no longer deploying monolithic collaboration environments. Gone are the days where you pick a single platform vendor and all of your voice and video and meetings is all done on that platform. I think the platform vendors would like to believe that's how it's going to work, but we're not seeing that. We're seeing that multi-vendor is absolutely the reality of it, either because people are picking best of breed for different workloads, or because in this global economy, M&A, et cetera, we're seeing just so many different platforms out there in any given enterprise. And then the third is really video. It's been promised for years that video was really going to mature and become a powerful collaboration technology, and it has taken a very long time for video to democratize or become mainstream and widespread use. But because of the new world of work, because of the way that people are now working more remotely, either because they're working from home, and also because of the what's happening in offices, more open spaces, more huddle spaces, working with people across oceans, video really now is becoming a major driver, and we're seeing more and more video requirements from our customers than we've ever seen before.
That's a good introduction, but one of the things that worries me about all the collaboration is how good is my experience?
Yeah, that's a really great point. There's there's always that need to support end users, and end users are going to pick the platform that works the best for them. And that is something that when we look at all of the other trends that are driving IT around, people using multiple devices, bringing their own devices, having non-corporate managed assets connecting to, what we traditionally consider to be corporate resources. All of these types of challenges are really making it complex to manage the end user experience because people still need support, and they will continue to need support. So we believe that in order to get the type of ROI that you're expecting from your investment in these platforms, you need a focus on the end user experience. And in a multi-vendor hybrid world, we believe you need a third-party tool for that.
When we talk about the end user, a lot of people just think about the voice and video quality, but there's a number of other elements that we have to deal with.
No question about it. This is a story that goes way beyond MOS scores, right? This is a story that is not just about whether or not the call sounded good or the session worked well. There are a lot of different factors that contribute to the user experience. As you've highlighted here, it's things like, did the session even work, or was it completely failed? If you have a failed session, you never see the bad MOS score. The session just never happened. So it's not just about quality. And in this environment where people have lots of different devices they could be using, I mean, it used to be so easy, right? It was a phone sitting on a desk. Now it's the Wild West. I mean, you've got all sorts of different devices and endpoints out there, voice, video, and otherwise. All of them using different, underlying software bases, and so firmware becomes a really, big issue. And then always user behavior and the way in which people expect the things to work based on the compatibility of their expectations is always a major player. So there's a lot at stake here. It's not just about call quality.
That brings up the word challenges and another word called management. And there are three parts here I think are real important.
There are three main themes that are changing the way in which all of us work today. And certainly there's a lot of inputs here, but they probably get summarized into these three. Number one, mobility is just absolutely first and foremost, right? Everyone is mobile these days, whether you're working from home, whether you're just needing the ability to work from a remote client site. Even if you still go to an office every day, you still are a mobile worker in many cases. Even if you're in a campus, you still may be mobile within that campus. Healthcare is a great example of that, right? Where you've got people who go to a facility every day, but they're mobile inside that facility. So mobility drives a lot. Global economy is also something that we're seeing, really impacting collaboration and people's choice of collaboration platforms, and the ability and the need to meet online to work with people that are in different parts of the world than ourselves. And then finally, underlying everything that's really happening when you look at kind of the CIO agenda right now, digital transformation, and the promise to take collaboration technologies and embed them into line of business applications so that you can get more insights in terms of what people are really doing and how they're collaborating. It's not just the ability to talk to you on the phone anymore or see you on video. I need the context of which you're working in order to collaborate with you well. And that is really being driven by digital transformation in the enterprise right now.
A lot of people think about all these wonderful tools and technologies, but in my opinion, if you don't have a good network underneath that's really working well, you don't have transformation. Do you agree?
No question. The network really is the core to all of this, and the health of the network remains incredibly important. I think we're nearing the point as 5G starts to roll out, and we see some kind of more impressive performance in the network. We're seeing networks get healthier, but if you don't have a healthy network, if you don't have the ability to focus on quality of service and understand how the health of the network impacts the sessions and impacts the user experience, you're never going to be able to make this transformation.
When I look at what you need to manage, a lot of people just think of network, but there's really the platform and the endpoints as well.
No question about it. This is a really important part of the story. If you think about user experience and you think about it particularly in the context of collaboration, voice, video, real-time collaboration, there's always these three domains. And especially now when we're looking at the industry and how things are transitioning to the cloud, really, it's only the platform that's moving to the cloud. The network and the endpoint are staying within the domain of the enterprise in terms of the responsibility. Sure, you might be moving your platform and outsourcing the responsibility for your platform to someone else. And maybe you're outsourcing parts of your network to someone else. And the endpoint is certainly where the users have the most control. But enterprises today have a responsibility to be able to stitch across all three of these domains and understand what's happening in the entirety of the user experience, not just one component.
We see a lot of people moving to the cloud for all sorts of reasons. But I think what we're focusing on here is like, can we move network management and this monitoring to the cloud? What are the advantages?
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting technologies now in networking in particular around, you think of SD-WAN and some of the things that's enabling, and some of the dynamic networking provisioning. If you look at what Cisco's doing with DNA Center and how some of that is cloud powered, there's really a lot of fascinating things happening in this space right now that are taking advantage of what we consider to be the operational simplicity managements of cloud. Certainly, cloud is built in an era where you have natively high availability. You have natively this concept of multi-tenant, multi-location, an architecture that supports disaster recovery, and all of those types of things that you have to have. Everything that's built in the cloud is built with all of that already there, right? Because that's been how cloud services have been built. So when you look at collaboration and you look at voice and video and where people are needing those services, cloud's just a really natural fit. You add on top of that the business drivers, which is, how much expertise do you want in your own enterprise IT staff around managing some of these more or less commoditized workloads? Why wouldn't you just outsource that? So there's a lot of drivers for why cloud is quickly becoming the platform of choice for unified communications, voice, video, and contact center, by the way.
This picture brings up three different viewpoints, the right audiences, three audiences that are actually interested in monitoring and managing the collaboration environment.
Different people need different tools, and different people need different, have different expectations. You have kind of classic IT operations, network operations center type views where you need to understand the health of the entire network. And you need to have an understanding of the health of the user experience in that context, but it's very much a global view. If you're a managed service provider, this is going to be a global view across multiple clients, across multiple tenants. So this operational view is important in the context of health. Then you have the people who are going to be a little bit more reactive. That's your support teams. These are the people that need to be able to go on and figure out what happened once something's already gone wrong, right? And that's a reactive, whereas the operations teams are hopefully a little bit more proactive. And then the third category, which is one that traditionally has not been part of how we think of UC management tools, is executive management. How are people using the platforms? How effective is collaboration happening? I would like to know, how are the people from our London office working with the people from our San Francisco office, and what's that look like, and are they having a good experience? That's something executive management cares about quite a lot.
And Nectar is expert in this technology and this business, but what makes Nectar an expert at what we're talking about?
Yeah, that is our background and our expertise. We have been in the space of management of real-time workloads, specifically voice and video and collaboration technologies, for over a decade. This is something that we believe and have developed not only an expertise around, but an approach towards, which we'll talk about here in a couple minutes, that really does focus on the end user experience, because voice and video in real time are a very unique workload. If your email takes an extra 5 seconds for you to get a message, or your SharePoint file takes a couple of seconds for you to get, takes a couple of seconds longer for you to get than you're expecting, no one's day is really bothered by that. But if you're trying to collaborate with someone in real-time voice and video and you have a multi-second delay, it's ruined, right? The entire thing is broken. And if you don't come from that perspective, you're never, I think, going to have a management tool that does a good job of managing those environments, but that is our background.
So what is Nectar 10 then?
Nectar 10 is really our answer to how we see the industry evolving. And that is everything that we've been talking about here so far really kind of tees up what we believe is the need for a complete new approach to how to think about UC and real-time voice, video, and collaboration management in the new era of collaboration.
Our next slide has a good title at the top, Collaboration Operations. Most people don't think of the operations side.
No question, and I think that this is one of the things, especially as platforms move to the cloud, people are still thinking through how operations is going to work. Monitoring, reporting, and diagnostics are still important tools, even once you outsource the sort of the platform operations to the cloud. The user experience tools still need to be something that the enterprise takes responsibility for. And that's our focus. These are our core workloads. Monitoring, reporting, and diagnostics form the core of collaboration operations, in my opinion.
We had 3 words on the earlier slide. The first word was built for the cloud. Would you focus on that?
Built for the cloud really means 2 things. One, the cloud era in terms of UC platforms is absolutely upon us. And so any management or monitoring tool that is useful in today's enterprise needs to be able to support cloud-based UC platforms. And that is very different than how the industry has traditionally approached monitoring and management in the UC voice and video space. We've been a very on-premise focused industry, and most of our competitors are still very on-premise focused. So our new platform, Nectar 10, is very much focused around consuming data from the cloud. That's point number one. Point number two is the operations and management of the tool itself. By being in the cloud and having a cloud-first architecture, which we do with Nectar 10, it makes it much easier for organizations to not only deploy our tool, but to operate and maintain it. It outsources a lot of those day-to-day operations tasks. If they bought our software in the past and installed it on-prem, now by having it in the cloud, we're taking over a lot of that responsibility, and that's something that our customers really will appreciate.
The next word is simplicity, and I think of that as the opposite of complexity. Why do we really need simplicity now?
Well, there is an adage, I think, that some people in the industry have, that if something is powerful or if it is advanced, then it must be complex. And the reality is that in IT operations today, very few people are deep experts on any one technology. What we hear all the time is that people are being asked to do more with less, and as a result, people become experts in a much, their expertise perhaps is a little bit more shallow, but it is much wider. And so when you have point solutions like voice and video platforms, you need to enable people with an intuitive platform. That's really about getting the right data to the right at the right time to the right people. So whether you're in tier 1, tier 2 support, you maybe aren't an expert on voice and video, the tool needs to help you so that you can add a lot of value without maybe having that deep expertise. That said, if you are a tier 3 or 4 engineer, the tool also needs to be able to support you there, giving you all the deep data that you need because you have the expertise. So, all of this at the same time that we're enabling a management view that helps understand the business impact of all of this.
I think this next slide is extremely important because you don't want to build a product or service that is stable but stagnant. I like the idea that you're thinking the future constantly while you're dealing with this product.
We believe that any type of tool that's going to do a good job of enabling the enterprise to manage great user experiences needs to be able to adapt to a very quickly changing environment. And that's not just about new vendors. That's a big part of it, right? There are new platforms, new vendors, but there's also new ways, new types of data that are becoming available, types of data that vary from the quality of a Bluetooth headset connection all the way through to what the lighting is like in a conference room, or whether or not the occupancy sensors in a conference room have been triggered. We know people are there or not. There's lots of pretty fascinating data inputs that all impact the user experience, and Nectar 10 is built in an architecture and in a way that allows us to ingest all of that very easily.
The next page has some screen displays of why you're purpose-built for real-time collaboration.
There are general purpose IT operations tools that people will use, but they tend not to have the context of understanding voice and video because these are unique and different workloads. Voice and video are very session-based. There's this idea that we have a real-time session at least between 2 endpoints, and in the case of a conference, multiple endpoints. And so we've built the traditional platform monitoring capabilities that you would expect in a tool like ours, that you still have to have, but we've also presented it in this context of sessions. And this is what we believe really differentiates our approach from some of the more general purpose IT operations or data center operations monitoring tools that are out there. Because we come from the voice and video background and we understand collaboration so well and we understand this context of sessions, we've really built the tool purpose-built for voice video in real time.
You've talked earlier about multi-vendor. I think this is a good picture showing the architecture overview of how you handle multi-vendor.
And these are just a couple examples in terms of, if you look at the icons here, there's really many more that will be added. But what I wanted to try and articulate here is that When you look at the power of Nectar 10 and the new capability that we have enabled by our central correlation engine, we have the ability to take inputs from on-premise infrastructure as well as cloud infrastructure. People like this idea of born in the cloud, and there are lots of vendors out there that are born in the cloud, which is great, except the reality of the enterprise is that on-prem is going to still be there for a long time. There are investments that people will be writing out for quite a long time before all of it is gone into the cloud, and even then there'll still be some on-premise components in the network. So you need an approach that can take data from on-premise, hybrid, and cloud services, bring it all together and correlate it, which turns out to be the really heavy lifting. That's the hard work, is the correlation. Present that in an interface and in reports and in dashboards that make sense to the end users. Again, back to that right data at the right time to the right user.
This next picture, I think, goes further into what you're trying to bring forward, and that is a cloud-based architecture first.
Exactly. So what we're talking about here is part of how our customers will transition. And for those people who know Nectar today that are in your audience and listening to and watching this EDUcast, they'll understand our existing architecture, and that is based on Nectar Foundation. We have RIGs, or the remote intelligence gateways. So what I wanted to just take an opportunity to articulate is that if that's your Nectar deployment today and you're comfortable with that, it doesn't go away. You still have all of that same infrastructure in place. If you were making a new investment in Nectar today, we would still put that remote intelligence gateway infrastructure in place. What Nectar 10 and the central correlation engine enables is additive to what you have today with Nectar Foundation. It just really is more power, more capability on top of the tools that you've known Nectar for in the past.
I'd like to point out to our viewers, we have a number of resources from Nectar Corp, their webpage, blog posts, videos, and case studies. We also have contact information for their sales organization. And thank you again, Tim, for your insight today.
Great to be with you, Gary.